Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'd like to wish you all a very happy holiday on this Christmas Eve. We do have a fantastic show for you planned today, and a very special guest joining us on this perfect day to be discussing angels and harp music, of course. We'll be speaking with Peter Sterling in just one moment. First of all, I would just like to, I usually like to welcome our assistant producer today. Unfortunately, he is not feeling well. Trevor is out. I believe the Winnipeg winter has finally got him and has thrown him into bed for the day. So hopefully we're wishing him lots of recovery so he can enjoy the Christmas holiday tomorrow with his family. So Trevor, if you're listening, we're sending you lots of love, and hope you have a very Merry Christmas Eve and a Merry Christmas. For those of you as well, I want to let you know that next week it is also a tradition for us to do a year in review, and we will be doing our year in review show here on the Just Bernard Show with Terry Joyce, Isaac Holt, and hopefully Trevor if he's feeling better. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. I believe this is the first time we've had Peter on since we've moved the show here to Revolution Radio, so I'm very happy to hopefully introduce him to a new audience of our new listeners here on the Just Bernard Show. Peter Sterling is a consciousness teacher, a master harpist, sound traveler with 12 internationally acclaimed CDs. He has been guided by angels for 25 years, and they have provided him with a vast body of knowledge to assist humanity in opening new dimensional awareness. He is a seasoned presenter and performer at Conscious Living Expos and other conferences around the country. Peter shares his wisdom at workshops where he explores sacred geometry, the harmonics of sound and light, the mystery of crop circles, the evolution of DNA, and the 2012 galactic alignment. His recent book is Hearing the Angels Sing. And welcome to the show, and Merry Christmas Eve, Peter. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Bernard. Glad to be here on this such a spiritual day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, wonderful time to tune into the holiness of the moment.
Yes, it is. And, you know, I must say, it doesn't matter if people are religious or if they follow Christianity or even believe in Christmas. We can't help but feel a certain elevation of spirit during this time of the year between the solstice, the New Year, and of course all the other religious holidays during this time. What makes Christmas so special for you, Peter? To you?
Oh boy, well, you know, as you were saying, I work with the angels, so you know, ever since I started having these encounters, this time of year, because it seems like there's a lot more angels present in everybody's life right now. And we see a lot of very kind of angelic behavior from people giving more, people really wanting to rise up and be a better person a lot of the times at this time of year. So I think for me is just well, I was just thinking about it last night. You know, I live in Sedona. I'm up at almost 5,000 feet. Wow. And I was just walking out the other night on the solstice, and it was so dark here and cold, you know, in the night. And I was really just feeling the presence of the solstice and looking around and seeing everybody's Christmas lights on their homes in the neighborhood. and how people are kind of lighting that internal fire and holding the light during this time of the solstice in the northern hemisphere, which is the darkest day, the shortest day and the longest night. So I just think that, just even the metaphor of that being the longest night for us up here is a wonderful time to go inside and to do some soul searching and to take stock and to reflect on the past year and set your goals and your intentions for the coming new solar year. And hopefully everybody is their intention is to rise to a higher level, of a person. And so I don't know. I find a lot of depth at this time. It's very kind of, for me, very introspective as well, and a wonderful time to be with friends and family. So I feel blessed for it all. Thank you for asking.
Oh, very good. And I love everything. And I love and agree with everything that you said. I find that I myself also become very introspective, and just the idea of holding that light and listening to that light within us, and maybe figuring out how to utilize that spark that's within us to create a better world, either for ourselves or for the people around us, has been very much an influence for me, particularly this year. I feel like I've been doing a lot of work as far as, how should we say, manifestation of a new creation. That's been my daily intention. May I manifest a new creation? But so let me ask you, Peter. You have been you have 12 CDs. I don't know if you have more by now. I don't know how long.
I do. I have 14 out.
Wow.
And my most recent CD is now number 2 on the international radio charts, and it was number 1 on the chart last month for New Age music played around the world on the radio.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's called Twilight Serenade, and it's wonderful, magical music. I've been saying it's some of the most angelic music that I've created in many years, and I invite everybody to come by my website at harpmagic.com and have a listen. It's playing right there on the home page.
Oh, okay. That's from the new album. I was just there, actually. I've been there about 4 or 5 times this week, of course, but I was wondering if that was from the new CD. That's wonderful, and it is absolutely beautiful. You can for me, it's kind of funny because I'm on the website and I'm trying to take notes for our talk today and whatnot. And the music was so, how shall I say, it moved into my body to the point where it was distracting. I couldn't even focus. It was mind-altering. That's the word I'm looking for. It was mind-altering. I couldn't focus on the job I went to the website for. So, yes, it's absolutely angelic. It really does sweep you in. It really, really does. And I can't help. What's the process for you like, Peter, as far as when you're creating a new CD, and especially this new one? I guess it's very spiritual for you, but can you tell us a little bit of what it's like when you're I don't want to sound cliche, but hearing the angels sing through you, how does that feel?
Right. Well, it's interesting you should ask, because this new CD has kind of an interesting backstory to how it was created. And I did speak about this on the press release for the album that I gave all over the world to the radio broadcasters about it. I think knowing the story kind of even makes it more engaging. Was a few years ago, I was involved with a group of people in Los Angeles, and you and I might have spoke in the past about some of my unusual explorations that I had maybe with this group, but we were doing a series of shamanic journeys and using sacred medicine from the Amazon, to open us up to the spirit realm and the other worlds. And it was very intense work, very, very healing and very, very expanding and just kind of life-changing in many ways. And the guy who I was working with, who was the shaman, was actually also a musician and had a recording studio in his home. So I received the message from my guides and angels that we should do a recording together. So we set a date, and I came over to his home, just the two of us, and this was right after a series of these ceremonies, and my intention was to just kind of open myself up and allow the spirit of the present moment and and all the work and ceremonies we've been doing to kind of come through as a musical expression of that energy. And I had no real intention of what I was going to play. I had no song list, but for 2 nights I sat at the harp and I just allowed the spirit to flow through me improvisationally.
Right.
And both nights I pretty much just sat for an hour and a half and played, just free flowing. And the first night yielded my album that came out last year called Patterns of Reflection, which also went to #1 on the radio worldwide and was nominated for Best Contemporary Instrumental Album of 2012, and actually got the #5 ranking for the whole year of New Age music on the radio. Out of like over 2,000 CDs released, I got the #5 spot for the whole year. And so that was from the second night of recording, and the first night I always felt was even much more fluid and magical, and that became the current CD, Twilight Serenade. And so it has this otherworldly presence to it. It's very fluid, and when you listen to it and allow yourself to really connect with it and follow where the harp and the music goes, it takes you on a magical journey. And that's always been my intention recording music, and how the angels have worked with me and taught me how to be a channel for the heavenly music and how to compose it and produce it to create this reflection of what's going on in the higher dimensions here on Earth for us to experience. So my music is very multidimensional when you listen to it, especially with headphones, and people often comment. And I make it this way is so you can really explore an interior sonic space. Music has the ability to carry the spirit, to uplift the spirit, and to carry us on, the wings of music, on the vibration, on the sound. And the consciousness of people has a ability to travel on it. Kind of with our non-local aspect, we can hook into a musical sound current and go on a magical journey. And that's where my music is made with that intention, and working with the angels in particularly, who have coached me and taught me over the last 20 years and were my original inspiration for this to come through. The idea was to allow the music to carry you up into a higher heavenly world. And, many people report that the music has images that come along with it when they close their eyes and allow the music to create imagery in their imagination. Wonderful stories. And the music is like a hologram. So when you listen to it, close your eyes, it really creates these beautiful imaginary worlds. And it's quite stunning, actually, and very healing, and really brings people into a new state of being. And that's the power of music.
Well, I certainly had a taste of that just by visiting your website, like I said earlier. With speaking of the angels, and I'm sure people are very fascinated with your relationship with angels. Can you share with us a little bit how you first came in contact with these beings, and what's the relationship been like? What have they been whispering in your ear all these years?
Sure, I'd love to share. And actually, I give a beautiful, in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing, it's the whole story of what happened to me in great detail. But basically, in a nutshell, I came to Sedona, where I'm talking to you now from, and I was led here by an inner guidance back in the late 80s. And I came here just following this voice, and I knew coming that I was here to discover something about myself. Sedona had just recently come onto the radar of many people because it was just a couple years after the harmonic convergence of 1987, and many people came to Sedona to be here in the power spots and the vortexes. And I came a couple years later, so Sedona was very activated at that time, and I knew that there was something for me to discover. And shortly after I arrived, I was guided to release all my material possessions for the most part and acquire a Volkswagen camper van because I was going on a vision quest, and I needed to be completely self-sustained. Mm-hmm. and to follow this guidance on this journey I was going to be taken on. Well, so I did that. I released the majority of my material possessions. I got a van and I retreated into the outback here of the canyon lands of Sedona. And this was in the early 90s at this point. And you could camp anywhere back in those days. The forest was open and free. And so I basically lived there, and other people were out there too in their vans. But this allowed me to just spend a lot of time meditating, practicing yoga, doing spiritual practice, and just primarily just being in nature and feeling the presence and the power of Sedona and the red rocks and the canyons, exploring the ancient ruins, and having conversations with the spirits of the ancestors, who carried that ancient wisdom in their lineage. And I was asking them to teach me about the four directions and the medicine wheel and their native ways. And so this whole kind of spiritual Native American thing was happening. And then just all of a sudden, from being in that wilderness and listening to the silence and going into a deep, profound state of meditation on a prolonged period of time, I began to hear music. And at first, I thought maybe somebody was out there in the forest with me, had a portable cassette player, and was playing some classical music. But then I discovered that no, that wasn't it, that actually I was hearing something that was otherworldly. And at first it was faint, kind of carried on the wind, because I was listening, I was really expanding my hearing. When you meditate, especially in nature, and you allow yourself to completely relax, your energy field can expand. And our senses of hearing and sight and smell and touch become heightened. And we become much more in tune with our environment. Whereas living in the cities, we tend to shut down because there's constant barrage of so much coming at us. But in nature, we can open up, and that allows us to rebalance and to heal. So I was doing this again and again, and listening to nature, the sound of the wind in the trees, the bird song, the trickling of little streams out there in the canyons. And it started to create this glorious harmonic music. Like I was tuning into the more subtle aspects. This is even what your listeners can do if they have a chance, and want to have this experience as well, is to go out in nature and just sit and listen to the sounds and allow your ears to expand and hear on a more subtle level, and hearing the higher harmonic frequencies of the sound. Then you start to pick up into the more subtle realms of the sound, which opens you up into a whole nother level of perception. And it was by doing this that all of a sudden, out of that sound of nature, and this is very common for people, from what I've heard, and even some saints and mystics in the past have spoken of this, that by doing just that alone, listening to the sound of music, of nature, that then all of a sudden I started to hear something else within that glorious nature sound. Then I started to hear the angelic choirs, like a voice singing, and kind of symphonic overtones to it. And it was first subtle, but as I just really allowed myself to tune into it, it was like, wow, what am I hearing? It became louder and more distinct and defined, to where ultimately it came to my full awareness, and I was hearing on a higher dimensional level. I was doing a lot of yoga and meditation, so my third eye was opening so that I could see, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become more psychic and clairvoyant, and I was actively listening at the same time as my third eye was opening. My third ear began to open so that I could hear on the inner planes. Mm-hmm. And it's a profound experience. Many people have had it. But it was by doing that I was able to hear the inner sound and the inner music that the mystics and the sacred scriptures from many traditions around the world speak of the inner sound. And I was just carried on it. Once I connected with it, then I went on these amazing journeys, and then ultimately what happened was it was the angels were there and I began to perceive them on the inner planes. And I went on many journeys with them. They became my guides, and it was a very transcendental, transcendent time when this was happening for me. I actually thought, Bernard, that I might be going crazy because it was such an otherworldly experience. I really had no reference quite for something quite like I was experiencing, and I really thought I might be losing my mind. But go ahead.
I was going to say, you're reminding me of a quote that one of my teachers told me back, God, I guess in the late 80s, early 90s, the same thing. He said, be very careful. There's a thin line between schizophrenia and shamanic emergence.
Yeah, true. It's true. It's really a razor's edge.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I can relate to that, absolutely.
Sure. But ultimately, I prevailed. The spirit prevailed, and I developed a relationship with these angelic beings that I was able to see and hear, and we were able to communicate telepathically right from the very beginning, and the whole story of how that happened is really magical, and it's in my book. But they started to share a lot with me, and about the nature of who I was, maybe my past lives, everything that had transpired. I could see how everything had transpired up into this moment. Now, what's an interesting part of the story, and I talk about it every now and then, the shamanic aspect to what I was doing shamanically at that time, which is pretty fascinating, and I write about it in great detail. But I was doing a lot of sensory deprivation, meditation and sensory deprivation, like in the flotation tanks.
Right.
And I was also using a substance called ketamine, which is a powerful anesthesia.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and it's very safe. There's a lot of research, and there's even some testing being done on it now. And in Russia, scientists have had tremendous results with it for treating all sorts of conditions, life-threatening conditions, and alcoholism and PTSD and all this. And there's some tests in this country for the same reasons, but it really has an ability to transport you out of your body into another dimension. And so I was doing a series of experiments and sessions with this very shamanically, with a lot of intent to cross over and to open my vision to see, through the veil of the illusion of this world. I was to break through. I always knew I had a mission kind of to do that, to see the true and ultimate reality. So I use this stuff as a tool to help me to break through and to kind of cross over that threshold. And it was really a before and after. I never really came back. But it was by doing this in conjunction with all the spiritual practices that led me to have this ultimate connection with the angels and the inner music, and then receiving the divine guidance my mission that I was asking to be shown to me, because I knew, like many of your listeners, feel as being a light worker, here to be of service, to help right now with, what's unfolding in the world right now for this awakening of consciousness. I knew I was a part of that, and I wanted to receive my mission. So I was asking for, that, and then it was revealed through all these experiences and the contact with the angels that I was to be a channel for the heavenly music that I was hearing on the inner planes, that I was to play the harp of all things. And I wasn't a musician at the time. This is a very key point of the whole story, is that, at this point I was in my early 30s, and music wasn't a prevalent part of my life really at that point. But when the angels came in and said I was to be a channel for this music, and they said that I am to play the harp, and that they would teach me how to play, and together we would work as a team to bring through this musical revelation, really. And at first I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but they were so steadfast in their heavenly request of me, and just surrounded me with all this love, quite extraordinary, that eventually I succumbed to their request, and I decided to link up with them And as soon as I did that, a harp came into my life through circumstance, the synchronicity, within about a week. I took the small harp out into the canyons and started to just take it out and just strum the strings freely. And all of a sudden, energy really began to move through me, like something came through my arms and my fingers. And it was like I knew how to play all of a sudden. And within a matter of weeks, it was like distinct songs and melodies were coming through. And it was like I was carried away on this wave of kind of ecstatic bliss coming from the harp, and this glorious kind of heavenly music coming through, really spontaneous. And very quickly, I actually made my first recording after only 10 months of playing. And that went on to win a national award and get me discovered, and I got worldwide distribution. And it happened very quickly.
Nice.
And yeah. So this is part of, what I teach in my workshops and share with people, Bernard, is that, anybody can do this really, to work with these higher energies and call them forth on your behalf to help you to achieve.
Absolutely. Okay, we're coming up on a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion with Peter Sterling. We'll be right back.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are here speaking with Peter Sterling, doing our very special Christmas Eve broadcast. We've been covering a lot pertaining to Peter's work, his music, and of course, speaking with angels. I wanted to share something. I was thinking about it during the break, Peter. I just realized ketamine. You were speaking about ketamine. And I believe in the 90s, was it the 90s or the 2000s? We used to call it Special K in Miami. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it's very funny because, and I mean this with all seriousness, whenever I did any type of quote unquote party drug back in the day, actually I was in my 30s as well. Mm-hmm. I remembered I did Special K one time, and I felt so motivated to literally, like you said, suppress my senses. Mm-hmm. And I remember being at this party with hundreds of people and just going in the backyard, sitting under a tree, and just allowing the images to come through me. And it's just so funny that it just hit me what it was. I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar. And I only did it one time, but again, it was a very profound experience for me, absolutely. So I can see how that could be used for something like that, as a medicine and a tool for altering our state of consciousness, and how it can be very helpful. I know that they're doing a lot of research in a lot of countries on a lot of these so-called party drugs, and and I don't want to get too much off base here because I do want to talk about the whole idea of our mission, but I do want to say this, that many of us, and especially in our 20s and maybe up through our 30s, we had the rave culture of the 90s and the 2000s. I don't know if there's still a rave culture anymore, or what they call it nowadays, but it always was, and you can look at it back in the 60s where you see I call it almost like an initiatory process, a shamanic initiatory process, where it's a bunch of young people getting together to alter their state of consciousness and really connect and expand their consciousness. It's almost, again, it's like a coming of age or something, spiritually speaking. And it seems to have been where we lost our tribal. Joseph Campbell speaks about it a lot, that modern society has lost its initiations through life and creating those particular life moments and initiations into manhood, initiations into spirit and whatnot. But with that being said, you were talking about our mission, or your mission. Mm-hmm. And, I love how you're speaking so candidly about it, because I feel that everybody here, all of our listeners, all of us who have awakened to our higher consciousness, and all of us that are working with us, do have a particular mission. And it may not necessarily be the same as, yours or mine or everybody else. And I feel as the global awakening is occurring, we all have our role to play in this awakening process, or this, leap to a higher dimensional consciousness. But so anyway, let's go back to what we were talking about before the break. And again, you were just talking about your mission and how you had never picked up a harp, and we're now making. I guess it was your first CD that was already out there, and you were about to make a point on how we all have the ability. And I might be filling in the blank here, to channel our higher self, or to channel source to some extent.
I think so. I think one of the missions of our personal angels, because I believe we all have personal angels with us all the time, kind of watching out for us and hoping to lead us to a higher path. That seems to be their mission for us. And what I was shown is that once you do make that union with the higher self, or the soul, that it's like a beloved union with that, your innermost being, with the most holy of holies within your deepest heart, where your soul lives, or where the Holy Spirit lives, right. That you can make a connection with that. And then once you do, your life moves into a different octave of expression, and you awaken out of like a dream almost, because there's such an expansion of awareness with that, that you really can't go back, when you're waking up, although some people have tried, but it never really works out. But
I keep trying. It's not working.
And that's like, once you make that union, then the angels' work is primarily done. Then they're kind of still a higher octave overshadowing, but on a day-to-day basis, like, you don't need them so much at that point. Right. They're there to help us to make this reunion. They're like messengers pointing the way to a higher source, so, and bringing that to you. So what do you think about that?
It's funny. You answered one of my questions that I had on the back of my mind just now, because I've noticed over the last, let's say, the last 2 years, I used to be able to be in complete communication with my guides, angels, whatever you wish to call them. I call them light beings. People call them angels. Some people call them transdimensional entities, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But I remember, up until about 2 years ago, they were constantly in communication with me. Mm-hmm. And after I settled into Roanoke, when I left South Florida, they started to not come around so much, and not really, I don't want to say talking to me, because that sounds a little strange, but the telepathic communication that we have. Mm-hmm. And I remember asking myself, what am I doing wrong? Did they leave me? And I just have been recently starting to embrace the idea of what you just said. So your timing was a beautiful Christmas message to me individually, and to anyone who's wondering, well, they haven't left you. You just don't need them as much anymore. I feel that there's and it's funny, because once I kind of had that completion within me, I remember saying to myself, I was like, I don't need them to talk to me so much. I wish they would stop pushing me, literally pushing me. It's like, oh, you have to do this. You have to do radio. You have to have a YouTube channel. You have to have a website. You must awaken the planet or help those that are awakening. That's your mission. You must, you must, you must. And I remember saying, okay, enough already. I get it. But, and speaking of that connection, and I want to share this with everybody, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. I remember in my 20s when I already had the aha moment, the connection was created, but I don't know whether I just wasn't ready to allow it into my spirit, or really ready to recognize myself like that, or perhaps I was just too immature being in my early 20s. But I remember this whole feeling of that there's something missing, like within my gut. And I know so many people have that we feel this emptiness in the pit of our stomach, and we try to fill it with, drugs or sex or a husband or a wife and a family or a big job with a big paycheck. And we're constantly trying to fill that empty void. Mm-hmm. And it was my guides. My guides said to me that once you allow yourself to align with your spiritual nature, to walk with your higher self as your higher self, that emptiness goes away. And it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely so true. What do you feel about that whole idea of that, that thing that people have? We're always trying to fill that void, and that void is really just aligning with our higher self.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking
Yes,
about.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, once you make that reunion with the beloved within, there's not so much of this incessant searching outside of oneself for satisfaction.
Right.
I mean, we do live in the world of materiality and form, so there's always going to be an aspect of us that is exploring and searching in the world to see what the world has to offer us. But it's not so much grasping. There's a story of the Buddha, and sometimes we see Buddha statues, and sometimes his hands are placed differently. When the hand is up, there's still an aspect of him which is seeking from the world. Yet when the hands were down, there's no more seeking or searching. It's just, there's like just full contentment, And so, yeah, there is a change that occurs. And I feel like because we have an ego, that oftentimes there is a death of the ego. When you have the shamanic death experience that is so popular now with the current generation to seek these spiritual visions by using shamanic journey and using different sacred medicines, and there's such a quest going on, and it's growing and growing around the world right now that, I think so many souls and spirits, especially with the younger generation, are seeing through the illusions more and more of the world right now, especially of materiality and mass consumerism, and they're seeking, and the fall of, kind of the church and established religions, that's all kind of falling, because you have to look into the mirror of self-reflection and honestly, and without being, not wanting to give it your full attention, because these things just come to you, and you have to look, and pay the piper, and kind of admit up to your past mistakes and see how you could be a better person. All this kind of thing. It happens very kind of alchemically and rapidly sometimes, but and then when you go through that, then you transcend to a new level of awareness, and there's a refinement of the soul and with the personality, and there's a fusion that takes place, with this divine aspect of ourselves, as you were talking, the higher self. There's many names, the Christ self, the higher self, the soul, the Holy Spirit. Many people looking at the same aspect from a different place and calling it different things. But when you have that fusion takes place, then it's like, you come into alignment with a higher power, and you do feel born again, and then that spirit works through you to spread good, and to do good works, and it's amazing what you can accomplish when you work with that power. A lot of people are just going through life and not calling on a higher power to help help them in their life to bring forth what it is they want to achieve. But when you do, and you see the magic of that, of the synchronicity and the magic and the miracle of that, it's a great power, and it really only works when you're doing good. This is a distinction, Bernard, and then I'll give it back over to you. If you start to call on these higher powers for your own personal ego satisfaction, because you want that Porsche, that new car, so you can get more girls or make more money, so you can do this to feed the lower ego, that's black magic.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful when you do that. And we all know that the backlash from doing that is, it's not worth it. So it's very short-lived, the satisfaction. So the higher route, the more direct route, what the soul really wants is to go for the higher path in the union with the divine, and then allow that to move through you and work through your life, and watch how miracle after miracle unfolds.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because there are so many, how shall we say, seekers out there today. And during my 20s, I was a seeker, and I was along the same lines. of well, if I do this manifestation spell or call upon this particular entity, then perhaps I can have that big house and I can have that big, big yacht or whatnot. And I'm just pulling out examples from thin air right here. But it was still that mentality of me, of feeling my need, feeling my ego, feeling that void
Mm-hmm.
through spirituality. And a lot of people, unfortunately, in today's world, we're seeing so much abuse in the spiritual, how shall we say, the spiritual media or teachers or whatnot. What people might call the new age or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Of I'm going to manifest a Porsche or I'm going to manifest a mansion. And I love that I love that you brought that up, because it is, for me, it's very important to say, for the higher good of myself and the world whenever I do something like that now. I remember, it's so strange to bring up this name in this conversation, but Aleister Crowley's definitions, which I actually agree with, of all people, his definitions were black magic is using, creating change through will to harm another. It was his basic definition of black magic. He called gray magic changing or creating change and conformity to help yourself. But what I love is that his definition of white magic, that white magic is using your will to align with your holy guardian angel and the will of God or spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've done from the beginning working with these angels is white magic, and that's been very clearly distinct to me. And I was also working with the presence of the ascended masters, and the Christ consciousness to help to pull through this whole thing. So I was always calling on a lot of extra spiritual support when you do this kind of work. And there is a lot of support out there. This isn't a solitary quest. Once you start to link in with the unified field of oneness, out of this world of illusion of separation and duality in which most of us live here in the third dimension on planet Earth, you realize that you're not alone, and that there's this extraordinary presence and consciousness that links through time and space all the great souls, all the great beings that have held this frequency for us, and you join in with that league, kind of an ascended league of great beings, and then you become one of them, and it's just amazing to see so many great stories of people who have found that inner power, and achieved greatness, and brought great things to the world. So it's really, we're hopeful that, and the angels are hopeful, and the ascended masters, that if enough of humanity, of this awakening humanity, can make this connection, that the energy generated, the force field, the positive effect of this positive force field of love and oneness and unity within humanity could actually transform this world within a blink of an eye. We could have, because time is illusion anyway.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's why we're here, Bernard, we're here to facilitate this great change, this wave of change through humanity at this great change of the ages that we're living in right now, of this generation, and to bring in a new world, because we see how, and the angels have made it very clear how, humanity is, precariously balancing on a point right now. It's a tipping point, it's a nexus point. And I think everybody sees how critical the time we're living in. So it's so important now for all of us to really make a conscious choice to, and this is coming from the angels right now, to make an alignment with the force of light and oneness and love in your life, and just to transmute and to destroy all, ignorance and darkness within your own consciousness right now, and go for the light 100%. Don't be kind of standing on the fence anymore in the gray area. This isn't gray magic. We want to be white magic all the way right now, because as the angels explain it, and the Ascended Master, there's a portal that's opening, like a galactic interdimensional portal and souls will be transiting through this kind of force field, just connecting with this energy of unification and oneness. Will be the vehicle of transcendence and will carry you through the gateway into the new reality. And this is the promise, and the revelation of the time we're living in and for us at this time. And so the angels have been very clear it's important to make that choice 100% and do everything you can to align with the force of light and love in your life. And that oftentimes means letting go of the things that don't serve us anymore, the lower vibrational aspects of ourself, of our lifestyle, of friends, toxic aspects of friends, family, whatever it is, to release that energy and to wholeheartedly and with great enthusiasm move towards the light,
I keep getting a visual as you're speaking of the Fool card in the Tarot. And for those that know anything about the Tarot, the Fool card is the first step on a journey. But the beauty of that card is that he's stepping off the precipice without any expectation. And that's kind of what I'm getting, what I'm hearing with your message is we need to surrender to our higher self. We need to surrender to love. We need to surrender to the light and just trust the fact that we are protected, that we are doing the right thing for ourselves and for all of humanity. There's just so much resistance coming from the ego and from, for lack of a better term, the media manipulation that's out there. And I find that people are still clinging, and at certain points, myself, of course, we all have our moments throughout our day that are still clinging to some of the old ideals. And again, it brings me back to the idea of the fool just jumping off the precipice, trusting, knowing that you will be taken care of, that the world will be definitely in a higher state of consciousness, at a higher vibration, and we will be well on our way to, as they say, heaven on earth. We're going to be taking a break in just a few seconds, so I don't want to jump into anything right now, but when I come back, I do want to talk about a little bit of the idea of what we can do to rid ourselves of that media manipulation. We'll be right back with Peter Sterling.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We're having a really fantastic discussion today with Peter Sterling. We're having a very nice Christmas Eve broadcast discussing the angels, aligning with the vibration of light. And before the break, we were talking, actually, the angels were talking about aligning with the light and really deciding that we are going to align with the light and with love and, the higher realms of consciousness. As I had discussed just before the break, I was telling Peter that and I know there's a place for everything. I understand that we are all on a very individual journey toward the expansion of consciousness. I do my best not to judge people. I do my best to say, okay, you are exactly where you need to be. But the reality of it is that when we open ourselves up to massive manipulation, whether it be through politics, television, media, pop culture, it seems to have a bit of a hindrance with some people, not all people. Some people can transcend right through it and not be bothered by it. Other people get stuck, and I can't help but feel, I don't want to make it sound like there's this two sides of a war thing going on, even though a lot of us do believe that. I personally feel it's just a matter of us evolving past an old world order. People call it the new world order. I call it the old world order, and moving into the new paradigm and the new way of thinking. So, Peter, I was wondering what words or advice, or what is your observations or experiences with the fact that people have 300 channels of television. People are addicted to fear. Those of us who transcend and throw out the television, like myself, and and decide, okay, only alternative media will do. And then we have alternative media, which is some of it's become very tabloid-esque, very fear porn, a lot of disinformation out there. Again, more manipulation. What can we do to be more aware of media manipulation, or when we're being manipulated, and to just transcend the whole mess of this, so we can get have that conversation with our higher self, like we were saying before.
Well, you're right. The media is so powerful, and how to become aware of that we're being manipulated or brainwashed. There's a very sly and so covert what they're doing, and the powers that be who run the media corporations and they study science and the human mind and the human brain, and they know what makes us tick. It's a science now. They teach this at colleges and universities, how to control the thoughts of the masses through marketing and publicity and all of that. As you were saying, what just came to my awareness was the word the matrix.
Right.
And we are in a matrix, and it is being controlled and manipulated by higher powers, or not necessarily higher powers, but powerful forces are kind of controlling and dominating, the main governing structures of this planet, energy, resources, media, communications, politics. It's all being obviously, for the most part, being controlled by a group that is intent on exploiting primarily for personal gain, all the resources of this planet to whatever their ultimate goal is. I don't know, but
Right.
But the main thing is, as I was reflecting on what I was saying before, is the idea is to extradite yourself from the matrix, and become aware of it, and then you extradite yourself. And the way you do this, the way out, the lifeline from the matrix, from the distortion of the matrix right now in the third dimension, which we cannot escape because it's getting more in our face everywhere we go. These powers, everywhere you turn, there's a screen broadcasting to you what you should think, what you should say, how you should behave, what the truth is about the world, and all of this. And so we're being assaulted right now. And it is condensing, it's intensifying, and rapidly right now. And it's overwhelming people. We can see all the symptoms of a society and a world that is overwhelmed with all the psychological and emotional disturbances in people all over the world.
Right.
That there has to be a way out of the insanity, because the world is going insane. Even though there's great beauty and sparks of light within the matrix that we see, like heroes and great, artists and things like that. But the general mass is this other frequency. And the idea of the angels is to allow an ascension to take place so you can have hope, because there's a lot of despair right now for a lot of people. So there has to be a way out, and there is. And it's just hooking into a higher frequency, and there's tools to do this. And one of the tools that was given to me from the angels was my music, or the angels' music coming through me, and the effect it has, because music is such a powerful tool. So it's quite simple. My mission coming in with the angels was to bring forth this music as a gift to humanity that they can use to elevate themselves, to liberate themselves, and to connect in with a higher heavenly frequency, which has transformed so many people's lives. The letters I've received from people all over the world speak testament to this. But it really can. Music has the way to change the brain wave, to change the state of the brain and the nervous system, and it can lift you and bring you into a new resonance, into a new harmonic of being, a new frequency of being. So that's the idea, is to use all these tools we have at our disposal to lift our vibration. And when you do that, it changes your perception. And then what a lot of the sacred teachings and traditional teaching, they speak of a state of grace, when you make that connection with this divine being, the higher self, as we were saying, and you step out of the matrix and you come into a more into resonance with the unified field of oneness, and your perceptions change and you start to see the true nature of reality. And you're not so much influenced by the duality consciousness anymore, seeing everything as wrong, right, black and white, good, evil, all of that. You see things differently. And I do believe this is happening and during the commercial break, I was reflecting on our new Pope Francis, who just in the last couple days released another statement that has sent shockwaves through the church, because he is preaching now the unification of all beings to come in to oneness with each other. And he's just rattling the foundations of traditional belief that is all about good and evil, and he is saying, everybody come together now and let's join with the higher power, and he seems like he might play a tremendous role. And I'm kind of monitoring what people are saying, and people are starting to pay attention to him again, to what the Pope is saying, that this man is real, that he's really speaking from his true spiritual heart, and he's, taken a vow of poverty. He's living in a small apartment with just a few things. He's turned away the riches of the papacy, and he's speaking now at this time for us of Francis, who was Saint Francis, who he's named after, was in touch with nature and the environment, and listened to the birds sing and heard the heavenly music that I spoke about. So maybe this man, who can affect 2 billion people, maybe he's seeing his role. He heard his calling now to come in and bring forth this message at this time where more people are going to hear it, and he's going to bring more people into the fold of loving oneness and unify with the divine love. And people will let go of their strict belief systems about good and evil and all of this, and just come into oneness and bring everybody in, no matter their sexual orientation or what political party or church they're from. Just let's get together, like John Lennon said, come together right now over me. That's what Pope Francis is. I think it's pretty exciting, don't you?
Yeah, I will say, when he first came out and started speaking in this manner, I was like, oh boy, he's got some really good handlers. I come from the Catholic Church, actually, and was so let down and so injured by them and their beliefs and whatnot, and especially this last Pope, the one before him, Benedict, was like Satan incarnate in my eyes. But to see this Pope constantly reiterating something that is truth, and I will say that, as how can I say this, as cynical as I am toward the church, I do have hope that maybe his words will transcend that cynicalness of all of us in the conscious movement, the truth movement, whatever you wish to call it, and just take the message. And the same thing, to bring up another controversial figure right now, is just the comedian, what's his name? I can't think of it now. The one, everyone is, I can't think of his name right now. I'm going to have to look it up. But this particular comedian is going up and saying a lot about coming together, and very much the same message. And everyone is complaining that, oh, well, he's rich, he's doing it for the Illuminati, it's a distraction, all of these things. And again, that's that cynicalness that we've had for so long. And perhaps now, I'm not saying join the Catholic Church. I'm not saying to start buying all pop albums or whatnot. But I feel that we are at a time now where things are so blurred, the lines are blurred. That Russell Brand, thank you. I just pulled it up here, and let's not kill the messenger with the message. Listen to the message. If the message rings true for you, by all means, it's a wonderful thing. And I feel that it's great to have people like Pope Francis and Russell Brand speaking on this. and to just accept the message for what it is. And like you said, there's an exciting thing happening now where we have, geez, I mean, the Pope speaks to what? I don't even know how many Catholics are out there.
2 billion.
2 billion people. This
Yeah.
man affects 2 billion people, and he's telling everyone to get over their divisiveness. I've been saying that for 5 years now, and we have to get over our divisiveness and allow the unity of the I call it the human family. That's my campaign. We must start thinking like one human family. And so, yeah, I really like what he's doing. I still would never join the Catholic Church, and I probably don't trust the Vatican, but I like his words and I like his message, and I feel that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, you were just talking about how we can pull ourselves out of the matrix. Where does, and I'm one of these people that adhere to this. I don't know, maybe somewhere along the line I was a Buddhist, that I adhere to the fact that this is all an illusion. Mm-hmm. This is all an illusion. We really must transcend identifying ourselves with the illusion and become the observer, as Joseph Campbell used to say. Be the observer, watch life, live life, but don't take it personally. How can something like that help us?
Well, how can we get to that state of being where we see things like that? It's difficult. One way you can do it is to, of course, do the shamanic journey.
Yeah.
And that is a radical change of perception. And when you do the shamanic journey, you often see the illusory nature of the reality in which we live. And the higher reality of which you glimpse seems much more real and captivating and spellbinding and fulfilling spiritually on every level of your being than the realm in which we live. So it's quite easy to see that with the shamanic journey. And the mission is when you have those spiritual epiphanies and those visions and those transcendent states where you see these beautiful visions, is to be a bridge and to be able to find a way and to bring that higher state of being, that higher heavenly vision into your earthly world, and thereby creating like an alchemy. Each one of us plays an important part because each one of us is anchoring the new consciousness. The prophecies speak that there will be at least 144,000 of the awakened rainbow warriors who are holding this new consciousness. They've kind of figured out the science because it's mathematics and harmonics, and because we're all linked in the brainwave state around the world in the global brain, the global consciousness, that if you could send into the global consciousness, like a wave of light, of a unity light, if there's enough of us, that it would overcome any kind of inertia, it would reverberate throughout the collective consciousness. So it seems like we're on the verge now, since, we're in the age of the sixth sun now, according to the Mayan calendar, mm-hmm. and in this post-2012 world, kind of beyond time, that there does seem to be a movement in this direction. We're going to see, I believe, even more signs of this great unification around the world. Different aspects of life will reflect this unification that is occurring right now on the more subtle levels, but we're seeing it now percolate up to more materiality, and we're seeing this unification. At the same time, we're seeing more stress on the planetary system on every level, and seeing decay occur. There is simultaneously to this a wave arising, an ascension wave arising of hope and promise and goodness is arising as well at the same time. So, as Joseph Campbell was saying, be in the world and to observe all of this. And who was it? Christ said, be in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
We become that silent witness. There's a part of us that is witnessing all of this, and the Buddhists speak of this, is that mindfulness. So you kind of have a state of detachment
to a bit and you start to witness the play of reality around you, the dance, of Shiva around you. And at the same time, we're building this bridge. So when we can bring and fully incarnate, each one of us, our higher selves, if enough of us can find a way to fully embody our higher selves and our true soul essences into our physical body, into our physical reality here, we know that when we do that, you see how your perceptions of the world change, miracles start to unfold. Imagine if enough of us did that around the world, started to link into that consciousness, the unified field of that thought would be so powerful that we could have a 100th monkey effect, that it would ripple throughout the collective conscious very rapidly, and we could see the world change very rapidly. That's why the angels and the masters and a lot of the sacred scriptures have said that when this occurs, this change happens, it could happen very quickly, like we've awoken from a dream, a bad dream all of a sudden. So that's the hope, is to stay, that's the apple, stay focused on that gift of that possibility. Keep your sights on that, your spiritual compass on that light of possibility. And that will be like a way out to help us through the maze of our lives, of all the challenges. Just stay on that higher power, whatever you call it, and make your ascension path.
Absolutely. And if I may throw this in there, don't think that it's going to happen tomorrow. Allow yourself to be on the path. One of the things that I used to teach when I was when I was teaching students on the ground in a regular classroom setting, I remember saying to them, all you have to do is say, I want to be on the path of awakening. I choose to be on the path of awakening, and the rest would fall into place for you. It's just a matter of making the decision and allowing it to and it might happen. It might happen in one day. It might happen in 3 lifetimes. But just making that decision is enough.
Well, let me just reflect on what you just said. Yeah. You told your students to say that I want to have that spiritual awakening, like set your intention. Well, I would suggest that rather than say I want, and empowering the thought that I want my spiritual awakening, speak from the affirmative of the present moment that I am. I am that I am right now. There's nothing to search for. There's nothing to get out there or in the future, that it's happening right now, now. That's why all the masters have said, be here now, be here now. So don't put off your spiritual awakening to some future time, like you're working towards the goal of being awake. Affirm right now to your conscious mind and your subconscious that I am awake. So as we go through our day, just make a mantra and repeat these affirmations. This is like a 4th dimensional technology, is reprogramming your brain, which is being so programmed by the media and all these information sources to feel separate, to feel less than and disempowered in many ways. But to reprogram yourself and to say that I am now, I am whole, I am complete, I am perfection now. And to claim that right now as your spiritual, with all your spiritual authority, that you have that right now, that's, I think, even a more powerful spiritual alchemy to do. That's what I did that helped me to achieve some of the things I've done, is to speak from the affirmative in this moment.
Right. And you're absolutely you're absolutely right. And I must digress and say, when I was doing this, I was only about 25. So, but now, yes, I couldn't help but agree and ask you: do you know who Tony Burrows is? Or do you know Tony? Tony Burrows is the founder of Intenders of the Highest Good. And he speaks very much on exactly what you're talking about. His book is Get What You Want, The Art of Making and Manifesting Your Intentions. And he's the guy that got the whole intention circle thing viral around the world. And I love you're speaking just like him. And again, this is kind of a side conversation. I'm wondering if you know who Marco Misinato is.
No.
He's also a New Age performer. And he has a new project called Unfolding Secrets. And I feel like I'm interviewing the same person. You guys are exactly sharing the very same message and about music. And I think that's so important. I feel that music really is a part of this awakening process right now, and I'm so grateful to have the confirmation from two musicians that are sharing the very same intentions with the idea of music helping us to connect with ourself, our higher self, and our source.
Yes, and by the way, speaking of music, I do happen to have my little harp with me right here, and if you'd like, I could play a little Christmas song for everybody.
Oh, that's fantastic, Peter. I wasn't going to ask you, but I'm so glad you're offering. Thank you so much. That would be fantastic.
Let's just take a minute, all of our listeners, all the speaking of oneness and unity in the field of oneness. Let's just take an opportunity right now and allow this music I play right now to connect us into that feeling of oneness just for a moment during this time of the holidays right now. Let's see what that's like. Okay, hold on one second. Let me just make an adjustment here. I have a 2-year-old son that runs around changing my tunings for me. Here we go. Let's see. Happy holidays.
And happy holidays to you. Thank you so much for that, Peter. What a nice surprise. I'm so grateful you had your harp next to you. Thank you.
Have harp will travel.
And I think that was the first time we've had live music on the show, so thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to just invite all your listeners to come over and see me at my website, harpmagic.com,
yes.
and have a listen. And, as you were saying earlier, I get that comment a lot. Many people come to my website and just listening to the music that starts playing on the home page are very captivated by it. And some people just let that play over and over and over and have even had amazing healings and kind of visions just from that kind of opening music from the website. So,
yes, absolutely. I can see how that would be. Definitely. We have good. We do have 5 more minutes. I was just checking the time. Sorry about that. So tell us again a little bit in the last 5 minutes of this particular segment. Tell everybody the name of the last CD. Where can they get it? And of course they know where to get the sample now.
Well, I always invite people to come over to the website because there's a lot more than music there, and you can learn all about my story and some of the other gifts I bring through and my other offerings, and see all my photo galleries and all that. But the CD Twilight Serenade is number 2 on the radio charts right now for New Age music, and last month it was the number 1 record around the world. It's called Twilight Serenade, and it's just a wonderful. The subtitle is called Music for Dreaming World. And it's very healing, very uplifting, very soothing to the soul and spirit. So I invite you all to come over, hear Twilight Serenade at harpmagic.com. It's also available on iTunes and Amazon and CD Baby. If you want to get your digital downloads, you can go to those main places. It's all over the internet. You can find it. So thank you for letting me share that.
No, absolutely. It's and I love I have your CD from the book from your book.
Oh yeah.
And is the CD still in the book if they buy the book?
Yes, it is. If you get the book, Hearing the Angels Sing, it comes with the companion CD, and it really works wonderfully together. It was really designed, and how the angels told me to do it was use the CD that comes with the book as the soundtrack while you're reading, and it opens up like a hologram. This is so much of what the angels have been teaching me and showing and revealing is about the holographic nature of reality. It's just been a fascinating journey when you start to see into the hologram and find the access points. This is what I teach in my workshop called Keys to the Kingdom, or the other workshop called Circuits of Connection. And so it's been revealed where these portals are, where these passageways are through the harmonic structure, the hologram of reality in the matrix, and how you can access these higher dimensional energies, like the angels, like ascended master energies, like Christ consciousness entered energies, and things like that, and bring that into your life. If you're interested in that, I do have that available too, some pre-recorded webinars and lectures that people, if they want to listen to the presentation, Keys to the Kingdom. It's a wonderful, we usually do it in 3 to 4 hours, but the webinar, we've been doing it lately in about 2 hours. So.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That's wonderful to know, and I'm glad that that's out there for everybody. Now, let me ask you just a very quick question, because we only got about 30 seconds in this particular segment. If you had to say one sentence of why music is important to aid humanity in this awakening, what would it be?
Well, I think this just gets back to what I was saying earlier, that music has the ability to give wings to the soul and to uplift the soul at times of stress and challenge. You can use music to elevate your mood, to elevate your consciousness, and ultimately to use not just to elevate the mood and the consciousness to a higher plane, into a spiritual plane. And this time, this energy of spiritual uplifting is so available right now during this holiday time for all of us. The portals are open. The angels say the portals are open at solstice time and to make this journey. So thank you.
We're taking a break, and we'll be right back for another 30 minutes with Peter Sterling.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. You're listening to our very special Christmas Eve broadcast live with Peter Sterling. We have discussed so much, I don't even know where to pick up. But let me ask you, Peter, I know, like I just said, we've been discussing a lot as far as philosophy, practices, things to perhaps give our attention to. Now, let me ask you, in the scheme of things, we talk about the 3D matrix, we talk about angels, higher beings. You live in Sedona, one of the best places to see, I hate to say it, UFO sightings. I wish there was a better word for UFO, but non-Earth terrestrial sightings. And I can't help but ask, what is your feeling as far as our star brothers and sisters and the role that they're playing with our, whether it be internal consciousness and or the evolution of the planet?
Well, I've certainly been affected by their presence in my life quite a bit. And as you said, being here in Sedona is a really Stargate portal for those energies to come in here. There's a lot of people who are kind of holding that space, tuning into those energies. A lot of channelers live here who connect with those kind of energies. And there's been a lot of sightings here over the years. And I had many of them myself, especially when I was living in the canyons and in my van for all those years in my early days here, because I was under the stars a lot more, under the night sky, than I am nowadays. But I do believe there is what's been shown to me is that there is like a galactic federation of, like higher consciousness beings that have our, humanity's best intentions at their heart to help us to unfold during this critical evolutionary phase that we're in. As a lower evolving world, a lower dimensional world evolving in consciousness, we're not the first planet that's gone through this type of crisis situation here. And I do believe they are helping. And a lot of this has been revealed to me from my several trips to England in the summer and to visit the crop circles and to understand and to decode the messages of the crop circles and what's been coming through them. So there's a higher intelligence that is endeavoring to communicate with the mass of humanity, and they've been using the crop circles, really quite strongly for the last 30 years, and giving information and teachings on a whole number of subjects ranging from quantum physics to biology to genetics to electromagnetics and things like that, astrophysics and all sorts of things. So, and when you study the crop circles, it is apparent that there is a higher intelligence involved in the majority of them, especially the more complex and perfect, beautiful ones that are beyond human reasoning, how anybody could make it in the middle of the night without light or ever being detected. I do believe there is a federation of light worker galactic intelligence that are here. There probably is a lower aspect to the galactic infiltration coming into humanity at this time through the collective, but I try not to. The way the angels have explained to me, and people have often asked me this, what about the dark forces and all that, who don't have our best intention? What about them? And like you said, it's to be aware, to be awake, but we're on a journey of transcendence. That's we're graduating very soon. So don't give those negative energies too much of your thought or worry.
Right.
Because the way they work is to cultivate that fear, generate that fear in you, they'll take your energy, because in this world of duality and polarity, and electromagnetics, there's always a negative aspect that's going to be vying for our time and our awareness, and they want us to look at them, and then they feed off of that negative energy from us. And that drains your life force and it lowers your vibration when you give too much in. I've known many spiritual friends who've gotten so enmeshed into the negative aspect of the conspiracy theory underworld scenario playing out, and it's brought them near to death on many occasions and nervous breakdown. And even a friend recently dearly departed from Sedona who was a great spiritual brother in this community. But in the end, he got overcome by those forces because he became so enmeshed in it. And so, my angels have shown to not give too much attention to that and to live in balance, but give primarily your attention towards the light and the goodness of God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, and allow that energy to motivate you in your life and to uplift you and to carry you so you can rise above the fray. So
I agree with you 100%, Peter. I feel it's so important that I like you have seen dear friends of mine who have been swallowed up by the fear aspect of what we talk about, constantly giving their attention to the darker aspects of corruption, the dark lighters, whatever you wish to call it. And while I do believe it's very important for us to be aware and educated of what's going on, it doesn't mean that we need to constantly harp on it. And in some cases, it seems that some of other radio broadcasters celebrate it. They're making their money off of being angry at them. And like you said, and I say this quite often, being angry at corruption is just sending them more energy. It feeds them. They live off that psychic connection to your energy. And I love what you just said, because it is about transcending the fear. It is about transcending the darkness into celebrating the light. Yes, of course, there is corruption. Yes, there are dark lighters. Yes, there's infiltration. For all I know, yes, there's an Agenda 21. We know there's a Bilderberg group. We know there's this. We know there's that. But it's not necessarily our place to hate them. Perhaps it's to be aware of them and transcend their power over us.
Yes, and I was going to say, there's that old saying, if you find yourself in the darkness, don't curse the darkness, but light a candle.
Yep.
Now, so our mission as light workers here is to transcend all fear within reason, and to go for the light 100% and be an anchor of the light in your life and a light in the world. And once again, if enough of us do that, see, these forces, it's all coming to an end soon anyway.
Yeah.
So, there's this illusion of power that they have and control, but there is a rising tide in humanity because of the shift of the ages that they are not going to be able to hold back because of our movement within the cosmos and within the galactic plane. Consciousness is expanding and awakening and ascending right now. So the dark forces are making a total play right here. This is a death throes of these energies, and they are being so blatant and so robust and so out of the closet with what they're doing, and because they know the time is at hand, so they're playing their ace in their pocket, this is their last hand, but ultimately it's transcendent is at hand for those who are choosing to go to the next level. That's all you need to know as we watch the world maybe even fall apart in front of us, but there's a higher message that's beyond human comprehension, a higher vision. And so you just have to, essentially, even what Christ said at this time, who we're celebrating at this time, he said, be in the world, but not of it, because this world is just an illusion, as we were talking about earlier. Don't buy in too much of it. It's hard not to do, especially when you have kids and family and a mortgage and a job and all that, and you got to pay your bills. But know that our time is at hand. We're on an evolutionary journey. We're going to cross this threshold together, and a great and glorious vision of the future is going to be revealed here very soon, is what the angels are saying coming through. So you have to have faith and be strong at this time and be very courageous. But our ultimate outcome is assured. Are you there, Bernard? Bernard? Hello?
Yes, hello?
Are you there?
Yes. Are we there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I've been switching my mute on and off while you're speaking. My bad. While we're speaking about this particular time and place, could you touch a little bit about what happened on 2012? So many people have either left the consciousness movement or are now using the fact that, oh, well, we didn't wake up to paradise and we didn't wake up to the end of the world. But I happen to align with the idea that it was just the beginning of a new process. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it and what you could share with our listeners.
Well, I, like many of your listeners, personally, I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping we'd get a little bit more of a display of something a little bit more otherworldly and cosmic, not necessarily the end of the world, but at least a sign from the Galactic Federation, or that, they were with us, that there is a global kind of unified thing happening in that way. But no, it went off without a bang for the most part. I was down in the Yucatan at Chichen Itza with several thousand people celebrating down there on December 21st last year this time. And my experience, like you mentioned, has been also that I too have come more into just a normal everyday kind of awareness in some respects, because there wasn't such an impetus for this future event that was drawing all of our attention to prepare for. That has come and gone without a hitch, pretty much. And but I feel like I'm remembering what Jose Arguelles said many years ago about this time when we post 2012, and he was the original kind of pop father of the Mayan calendar in the current generation with the harmonic convergence and all that. And he said that now we're in the phase of no time. And for me, there has been a strange kind of timelessness now that I'm living in, because I don't have that kind of point on the future timeline, on the space-time continuum of a future event. We don't really have anything like that. So we're kind of collectively, the new consciousness people are kind of almost in a bardo state, almost like they're kind of in the void right now. Well, a lot of my spiritual friends, even here in Sedona, have been saying how they don't feel so inspired to do all this metaphysical stuff anymore. They don't listen to the channelers so much anymore. They're just being now more in the moment now. And I find that myself too. I don't find myself listening for every bit of cosmic information and what's happening now. No, it's more like just an embodiment of presence now for all of us. We've done all that over those previous decades of all this stuff happening that we were preparing for, but now we're just in the void. And it's a very potent place to be here. Things could kind of go either way still, it feels like, in a certain sense. But now it's just embodying that consciousness, just being a good person, not so much looking for a future event, but just living every day in the now, in the now, in the now. And that's a very potent place to be. And that's how I've been guided by the angels. I've been kind of observing that timelessness place that's on a subtle level been happening for me and many of my friends. And so I don't know what it all means in the future, Bernard, but I'm keeping the faith that all good fortune will come to all of us that are focused on a higher power, whatever that is for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like you, I myself was a little let down on 2012. And if anything, one of the things that I picked up on maybe 3 or 4 months later was that a lot of the disinfo, a lot of the fear porn people kind of like went into the shadows. It was like they disappeared. Mm-hmm. So if anything, it was a nice cleansing with alternative media. A lot of the darker negative aspects of alternative media kind of disappeared and made room for even more empowering, more like you said, those that help us to align with our higher self, our guides and whatnot, seem to now be sharing pretty much the same thing, that we must be aware of our consciousness. My big thing this year is taking responsibility for our thoughts, because our thoughts project energy, and just drawing it back to being in the moment and allowing the creation of new through your positive thought, versus being aware of what the external world keeps telling us. Mm-hmm. Like what happened with 2012, so much, look. Mm-hmm. So it is very nice that we do have the freedom now to be here in the moment and to create a better future from within this moment.
Yes.
And that's, I feel, where our strength is going to come from.
I think so. And one of the ways that I'm kind of personally wanting to help out in that way right now is, you were asking about my new music, and I do have my CD Twilight Serenade is available on a donation basis right now. So there's no set price. People can come if they want the CD. They can just make a donation for whatever amount they want to. So I want to just call people's attention to that. Oh, and also, I have a new DVD set that I'm just coming out with, and it's specifically tailored towards and made for children with autism and ADHD, and it's a 2-set DVD, and on the DVDs there's beautiful imagery of whales and dolphins swimming underwater with all sorts of special effects, with my music, and also special frequencies that affect brainwave states overlaid on the music. So this I've been guided to actually give as a gift. So I want to know if there's any, at this Christmas time of giving, I just feel like inspired that if there's anybody out there in our listeners who have a family friend or loved one or a child who is struggling with autism or ADHD, and you have a sincere need of that, please come over to my website, harpmagic.com, and send me an email, because I don't have that page up yet for that. But if you're listening to the show now and you want this gift, come over, write me an email, or you can write me at Peter@HarpMagic. Tell me you have a need in your family or whatever, and I'll send you a complimentary gift of this 2 DVD set right now to help you and your family or friends and loved ones with this condition.
That's a beautiful gift, Peter. Have you named the series?
Yeah, what's it called? I did it in conjunction with another company, and I can't remember what they called it, but
okay.
it is available just in the last couple days. And like I said, I'd love to send some out as a gift. This is the mission I've been given recently by the angels, is to share this with people who have a need for this. So please come on over and let me know about it.
I think it's wonderful, and I love the idea of laying in the frequencies. Is it what's that called? Bio something where they
well, they have like binaural beats.
Binaural beats, yeah.
These are not binaural beats. This is frequencies. So like tone frequencies, yeah. Now I have another one that's coming out in the beginning of the year, which is called Visions of Paradise, and this one is similar in that we have beautiful imagery of the dolphins and whales, and also the crop circles and some other kind of multidimensional stuff with my music, and then we overlaid on top of it 3 of the solfeggio frequencies, the trinity of the 369 from solfeggio overlaid on the music, and this is I call auditory LSD. When you let, and I administer it to people here at my home in my private practice on a vibroacoustic sound pad. So you lay on this vibrational sound pad as you watch the DVD, and these frequencies pulsate through your whole body, and it's like it takes you on this multidimensional journey. It's an extraordinary, beautiful, ecstasy-filled experience. This is some of the new stuff I'm getting into, is working with sound frequencies, music enhanced with sound frequencies for specific purposes.
Oh, well, that sounds really fascinating. We're going to have to do another talk on that one. That's absolutely amazing. I love the. It's almost as if it's the new technology coming to Earth finally.
Yeah, I mean, sound, frequency, vibrational healing is the healing of the future. You know, we're just a mass of vibrating atoms that hold us together, and every internal organ, every body system has a frequency and a vibration associated with it. And as we were talking earlier, we have a tendency now to get thrown out of balance by all of the electromagnetic pollution, all the stuff coming through the media at us. So we really need to find a way, and now people are realizing there's a real need for vibrational harmonic attunement on a personal level. So there's all sorts of technologies coming out now to help us to stay in the right vibration and right frequency. And this is how my music works too. So once again, come on over and check it out. I love to share my music as a gift. That's why even the current, the number 1, number 2 album on the radio right now, I'm almost offering it just as a donation, just to get it out there, because it's very important, very healing for this time right now. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you can find more about Peter, of course, at harpmagic.com. Peter, we have about 1 more minute left, and I like to ask everybody, since I've moved over here to this network, if you knew that the entire world was listening to this particular broadcast, the whole world was listening, what would your message be to humanity?
Well, my message to humanity would be with this. It would be a song, and I'm going to just play my harp again.
Yes, play us out. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll play us out. This is what I would say to the world right now in response to that.